welcome to the Comic Game Movie Show. My name is Deshaun, and in the appetizer for tomorrow's MCU Marvel Studios Hall H panel, we got Marvel Studios animation panel earlier today, and we got some massive reveals. First of all, personally, I have been excited for, sorry, still dealing with my cough, but I have been excited for the Spider-Man freshman year concept. When I heard about it, I thought it was cool. When you saw a little glimpse of what the art style they were going for, which was this classic Steve Ditko, early Stan Lee Spider-Man style, just kind of with a new coat of paint over top of it, and made him look a little bit more like Tom Holland. I was like, okay, this is gonna be cool. And then I heard it was gonna be a prequel, and like I was excited for that. Obviously, Marvel Zombies. Obviously, What If Season 2 and X-Men 97. And we got news on all of these things. Now, I'm going to start off with the negative news, which is nothing's coming out this year. In fact, 2 of these shows ain't coming out for a full year and a half, basically. 2 of these shows ain't coming out till like 2024. What If is coming out early 2023. Now, I Am Groot, which I haven't mentioned, technically is coming out next month, which it does look like a nice little cute little thing, but it's nothing like over the top, though I will talk about it briefly. And the X-Men one is coming out, I think they said the X-Men one is coming out next year. I think they did say that's coming out next year. But it can't be but it's like later next year. So like, none of the animation stuff outside of What If is coming in any time frame that's worth, putting any real thought into. But even still, we got a lot of news and a lot of stuff on a lot of things. Let's start off with the one that I was the most curious about, which was the Spider-Man freshman year. Now, personally, I'm trying to get this thing to focus back, but I have conflicting feelings on this show. I was excited. This is what I thought the show was going to be, and this is what the show seems like it is going to be. When I initially heard about the show, they framed it as it's going to be a prequel to Spider-Man, to Civil War. It's going to be because, if you recall, there's a 6-month gap between when Peter gets his powers and when Civil War happens. There's a 6-month period. And in that 6 months, he gets bitten, he learns his abilities, he makes his suit, he makes the web fluid. In that 6-month period. So, that's a nice little window. I mean, if you think about it, there are so many stories in the MCU and so many stories in general that are told within a week period. Within a day period. Within a couple days period. Within a day period, actually, yeah. So, 6 months, you can get a nice story out of 6 months. You can get a couple stories out of a 6-month period. So I was like, okay, and in my mind I'm thinking, because once they kind of confirmed, like they had at first confirmed that it was going to be canon to the MCU, I'm like, okay, so this is what's probably going to be. You're going to see a young Ned, you're going to see how he met Ned, you're going to see Uncle Ben, you're going to see MJ in the background, you're going to see all these other characters from the MCU version of Spider-Man in the background, and they're probably going to have a villain like Tombstone. I was thinking it was going to be Tombstone, because Tombstone could be a lower level villain who... It seems reasonable that the Avengers wouldn't have to get involved with something like Tombstone and him just dealing with like regular criminals. So it'll be Daredevil-esque in that way. And I was like, okay, I can see this, All right, I can see this. And plus, I think between Spider-Man and the X-Men, Spider-Man, the X-Men, and Batman have all had very good animated shows over, the years. Obviously, Spectacular Spider-Man, and my personal favorite is the 90s Spider-Man. I love that one. I don't know why, but I love that one. That was my Spider-Man. I'm going to just tell you that right now. The 90s Spider-Man was the Spider-Man I grew up watching. So that's the one I think about when I think of Spider-Man. And then, he had Spectacular, which was amazing. And I didn't mind the new Spider-Man they did. The Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man they did. I didn't mind it. I didn't love it. But I didn't mind it. I thought it was okay. I thought it was decent. I thought it could have been better. I thought once they started making all those Spider-Man people, everyone started getting powers. It did start to get a little okay. But I didn't mind it. At least the first season or two. I didn't mind it. It started getting a little stupid, but I didn't mind the first season or two. And and Batman's obviously has a couple, and obviously the X-Men speak for themselves with the OG X-Men series, and X-Men Evolution, shout out to that one. And Wolverine and the X-Men, shout out to that one too. But, so I'm excited for our new Spider-Man animated series anyways. But then when we got these announcements today, it confused the fuck out of me. Because at first, I was willing to work with them. Because first of all, we got some actual, official stills of the character and the design. Like I said, they're going for that Steve Ditko kind of a classic vibe with the art style, which I'm digging. I think it looks really cool. But then when they announce his classmates, and who include Nico Monaro, and if that name sounds familiar to you, not Wiccan, my bad. Nico Monaro sounds familiar to you because she is Nico Monaro, the leader of the Runaways. Yes, that one, the Wiccan. I said Wiccan, no. She is a Wiccan, the one who has the staff of one. Yes, that Nico Monaro, which was like, okay. And then Harry Osborn is also in this, which was another, wow, okay. It was very interesting. It was an interesting turn. It was like, okay, this is different. This is okay. So the Osborns exist in the MCU. Okay, that's cool. So, Nico went to school with them? I wonder what happened to her. Like, there was all these things swirling through my head. I'm just kind of breaking down my process as the steals and information started to come out one by one. And I was like, okay, you know what? In my mind, I was like, okay, Oscorp maybe is like a smaller thing these days. It hasn't really blown up yet. Maybe Harry was his friend when he was younger and he went off somewhere and, Peter just ain't seen him in a long time, so he just doesn't talk about him. Oh, man, maybe Nico, they weren't really that close friends. And, I'm coming up with all these ideas in my head to how this could fit in the MCU continuity. Then the big fucking thing, Charlie Cox is returning to voice Daredevil in the show. And he's in this nice black suit. I think you guys have probably seen it in the comics, the black and red suit where it's full black with red on it. He's in that suit, which is dope as hell. I can't believe they got Charlie Cox to come back and do this. Makes me wonder how they couldn't get Tom Holland, but Tom's actually probably way bigger than Charlie Cox is at the moment, so understandable. And even that, I was like, okay, makes sense. They're not that far from each other. Yeah, sure, Daredevil was in the area. Makes sense. But then they did two things that made me go, this cannot be continuity. Which is, they did the suits and the villains. Let's start with the suits. Some of those suits look way too fucking good. Now, granted, to be fair, this could be some shit perhaps it ends and it's Civil War happens and then it goes forward. I don't know. But some of those suits are so out there. Some of them look like comic book suits. One of them looks like the Future Foundation suit he has. That I'm like, there's no way in hell he can have these suits if he's in the MCU. He couldn't, because we know what suit, he only had the Stark Tech suit for after what happened. And we know all the suits he had. And there's no way he could have these suits if we never seen him have these suits. And there's no way he had these suits before meeting Tony Stark. Otherwise, why wouldn't he still be wearing one of those suits over his homemade shit? So, once again, it was okay, I don't get that. But the villains really gave it away because one of the big villains is Dr. Octavius, Dr. Octopus, which completely flies in the face of what happened in Spider-Man No Way Home, because as far as we knew in that show, he had never heard of anyone named Dr. Octopus, and he had never seen anyone with those kind of features, which means he would know, which means this can't be in the world, which confuses me, which I've seen some people say that this is a multiverse story, which is fine. It is fine. Hey, look, Marvel Studios is doing their own original, Spider-Man animated movie, which is great. Animated show, which is awesome, because in my mind, I've said for a little bit of time now that it would be dope if Kevin Feige revamped the Marvel animation world, because I'm like, that's a nice opportunity to do things differently. You can really do something different with the animation. It doesn't have to be connected to the MCU, and it does seem like they're leaning into that, because as far as I know, as of now, outside of I Am Groot, which may or may not be, None of these shows are in the proper MCU timeline. Zombies, Spider-Man, What If, none of them are in the actual proper MCU timeline, which seems like they're doing what I hope they would do, which is taking advantage of the fact that they have animation and it does not have to be connected. Because I think they were worried that no one would watch it if it wasn't connected. Though I was looking forward to this being connected because I was like, oh, well, you can answer so many questions. But if Marvel's doing their own Spider-Man animated show, and even the head of the Marvel animation division said that this show is going to be that the Spider-Man show is going to be kind of inspired by Spectacular Spider-Man, which if you're a Spectacular Spider-Man fan, I hope you get up for this because that means this show's tone is going to be very similar to that. So Spider-Man, non-canon, I don't know. Multiverse, we don't know. Daredevil, all awesome. Then we get to Marvel Zombies. Marvel Zombies being the first MCU project to be TVMA is fascinating. Fascinating. Now, to be fair, to be out there, it's like they've already said it's TVMA for the gore because they're going to get really gory and really bloody. So that's why it's TVMA. It's not like sex and it's not like sex and a bunch of swearing. It's just really gory, and they wanted to have fun with the gore. Now I know some people are like speculating again, which to be fair, considering all the changes that have happened, the Deadpool 1 and 2 come to Disney Plus along with Logan. Also, the Netflix shows coming over to Disney Plus, and now they're uploading a lot more R-rated stuff to Disney Plus, too. With a lot of that stuff coming over, I know a lot of people are kind of out there like, hey, does this mean that the MCU is going to start making rated R content? And the thing is, I don't think so, other than Deadpool, which we've talked about that before. I still don't think so. I think that Marvel Zombies is a special case because it's in an alternate reality. So, because, like I said, I still stand on this hill. Maybe I'll die on this hill. Maybe they'll change their mind and I'll end up dying on this hill. You cannot have R-rated movies tied into the main continuity MCU because there cannot be an entire section of the MCU that children and families cannot watch. Because then it'd be like, well, I wanted to watch the next Avengers movie, but 2 of the movies were rated R and I couldn't take my son to go see them, and the only reason I go see them is to watch it with my son. I just don't see them risking that money going down the drain. But with What If being an alternate timeline story, they can push it. They can push that a little bit. They can push it a little bit and kind of do that. So maybe you might start seeing them do that with the alternate reality stuff, pushing it a little bit, because even Deadpool 2, even Deadpool 3, I'm so curious about that movie, how it's gonna wrap up, how much in the MCU is it gonna be? I'm just curious about that movie. Can't wait to hear more about it. But Marvel Zombies, and plus they announced a lot of the cast. You got fucking Shang-Chi, Yelena, a lot of characters in this Marvel Zombies, man. A lot of characters in this fucking Red Guardian, Kate Bishop. Apparently there's a zombie Icarus. There's a zombie Abomination. There's a zombie Ghost. I'm excited for Marvel Zombies. It's gonna be dope. Now, obviously, What If is the closest thing coming, and they've announced a couple things, which is Captain Carter meeting Winter Soldier. But the big one they announced in that couple ones that they showed us is fucking Odin versus the Mandarin. To use a wrestling term, because there's a lot of wrestling news going around today, I popped hard. I was like, Odin versus the Mandarin? Who versus the Allfather? Ooh. I'm like, why and how? And is it going to be in the past? Because when was 100 years old? It could be in the past. And my mind just started swirling about that fight because I don't know if I said this enough, I loved how the 10 rings worked and the fighting with the 10 rings. I'm just imagining a badass Odin and ooh, gives me chills thinking about it. Because one thing What If was pulling off great was the fight sequences. They were all dope. Every fight sequence that went down was awesome. So I can't wait for that. Also, there's a hella story that I think has the potential to be the Doctor Strange story of this world. I have a feeling it's gonna be dark as fuck. But what if it's already been greenlit? It's funny, almost all of these shows have already been greenlit for season 2s. Like, what if it already got a season 3 in the works? They've already fucking are already making sophomore like the new next Spider-Man show sophomore year. They're already greenlit to make another season of the X-Men. So like they're moving forward. But yeah, what if it's the closest? It's the closest one that's coming out. It's probably gonna come out in like January. February? I'd say February. It's probably going to come out in February of next year. But we get to the big one, which is X-Men. Well, I'm going to talk briefly about I Am Groot. It looks adorable. It looks nice and fun. I hope they release all 5 of the small episodes all at once so I can just watch them and just enjoy these fun little delightful adventures with Groot. Looks lovely. X-Men 97. First of all, they're expanding the cast. And, like, clearly they're going for, and it feels like, at least to me, they're going for a, what's the word I'm looking for? They're going for a Wolverine and the X-Men vibe, where there's going to be a tiny period of time that's skipped, and things have changed. The biggest being is Magneto is now the leader of the X-Men. I mean, he's got a new costume, got the fucking hair all out, man. Also, we're getting goddamn Sunspot and Morph and goddamn Bishop and Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler, the Hellfire Club is coming back, Emma Frost and the gang. Like there wasn't a lot given away, but that it's coming out in 2024. That it's been greenlit for another season, that like everyone's excited about it. It's going to be a continuation of the story. Clearly events have happened that we're not aware of in the story, so we're going to catch back up. I feel like I need to go back and watch the show. Like when Disney Plus first came out, the first thing I did was watch two old shows. Well, 3. The first was Darkwing Duck. I can't. I loved Darkwing Duck when I was a kid. Second was the X-Men show. Third was the Spider-Man 90s show. But the X-Men show. And I started watching it. And I got like, I don't remember. There's a lot of seasons of that show. I got like halfway through season 3. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go do something else. And I never came back to it. But I need to go back and finish that 90s X-Men show just to catch up to the point so I'll understand what's happening when this show comes out. Now, granted, I got a fucking year and some change to wait to do it, so I'm not exactly in a rush. But still, I probably should pick up the pace. I probably should go back and rewatch it or finish watching it at some point. But it does look great. Looks as good as it looks like a modernized version of that old school style. So it's the exact style, just a bit cleaner. I'm excited for that. But the animation panel ended up being lit. Like, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know like the amount of information we would get. But it ended up being an exciting panel that had a lot of news, had a lot of stuff, a lot of unexpected stuff. I'm still confused about the Spider-Man thing and what happened. Like, what changed in the year and change since they announced this? Like, what happened in the couple years? It was a couple years or a year, I can't remember. But what happened in the year since they announced this that made it feel this different than what I imagined it was gonna be? Marvel Zombies being TVMA was kind of surprising, especially since they got away with so much on the What If show that I figured like that was enough. Like you could. I mean, if you could get away with that much, I'm like, I figured you could get away with enough. But them pushing it, okay, that's cool. I'm still, pushing back against having R-rated content in the proper MCU timeline because I don't want to limit how many people can see the MCU. I don't want to limit that bubble. It's already, some people already call it limited enough. I don't want to limit it even more. But I'm excited for all of these projects. I'm excited for What If, especially some of the stuff. I really enjoyed What If. I'm excited for the X-Men show. I'm very excited for the Spider-Man show. I love Spider-Man shows. I think Spider-Man is my favorite. Like, sometimes I feel like Spider-Man is my favorite superhero just because, like, I love he literally has 2 video games that I love. He has 2.5 animated shows that I love. He has like 4 or 5 movies. He has like 4 movies that I love. 4 or 5 movies that I love. So it's like, I don't know. Maybe he is my favorite superhero. Like, I think it's Wolverine, but I don't know, man. Spider-Man, like, I get excited for Spider-Man animated shit, man. Like, I can find something good in every one of these damn shows. Anyways, thank you guys for joining the Comic Game Movie Show. Please don't like, subscribe. What did you think about the Marvel Studios animation panel? Was it what you were expecting? And what do you think about the Spider-Man news? What's going on with that? And how are you excited about Charlie Cox? Anyways, thank you guys again. Join me on the Comic Game Movie Show. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.